Hello, everyone. My name is Riki Savaya, and I'm professor at the Bob Chappell School of Social Work at Tel Aviv University in Israel. First, I would like to thank Professor Otani for inviting me to talk about how schools of social work in Israel develop professional identity among their students, our students, and how we prepare them to be social workers. Let me start with giving you some basic information on Israel and the challenges the country, the social work profession, and the social workers cope with. Israel, the Jewish homeland, is a young state established in 1948. It is a tiny country with about 470 kilometers north to south and 135 kilometers east to west at its widest point. The state, located at the eastern end of the Mediterranean Sea, is surrounded by Arab countries: Lebanon to the north, Syria to the northeast, Jordan to the east and southeast, Egypt to the southwest, and by Mediterranean Sea to the west. Israel's population is very diverse. Of the 9 million citizens, Jews constitute about 75% of the total. Almost all the rest are Palestinian Arabs, of whom most are Muslim. The remaining Arab are Christian and Druze, who each make up only a small fraction of the total population. Israel Jews immigrated from Eastern and Western Europe, the Middle East and North America, Central Asia, North America, and Latin America. Differing in ethnic origin and culture, the immigrants brought languages and customs from over 100 states. The revival of the Hebrew, until then only a biblical language, as the country's common language, and the development of a solid Israeli national consciousness and identity have facilitated the assimilation of newcomers to Israel, but have not eradicated their native ethnicities. Several ongoing conflicts and rifts characterize Israel today. This includes political violence between Israel and its neighboring Arab countries, the struggle of the country's Palestinian citizens for full civil rights and equality in resource allocation, within the Jewish population, value conflicts between secular and ultra-Orthodox citizens, and between liberals and conservatives. We have gaps between rich and poor, and also high poverty rates. All these conflicts are manifested in racism, feelings of apprehensive, distrust, and even fear between groups, inability to accept the other, and life under constant stress. The structure of Israeli society is reflected in the composition of students in the country's schools of social work. Israel has 13 schools of social work, 5 in research universities, and the rest in colleges throughout the countries. To a large degree, the school's location determines the characteristics of the students. For example, most students at Tel Aviv University, my home university, which is more liberal and secular and critical, are secular with attitudes of the political left. Close to 40% of the students in the bachelor degree, in the BSW degree in my school, are of Arab origin. At Bar Ilan University, which is more religious and conservative, there is representation of religious students and students who live in the West Bank. Nevertheless, there are more similarities than differences among the students' features and the curricula taught at the different schools in Israel. Most students at the BSW programs are young, around their 20s. There are by far more female students than male students. The degree takes 3 years to obtain. 3 years of supervised field placement are mandatory and are an integral part of the classwork. Accreditation is obtained from the Israeli Council for Higher Education. The Ministry of Welfare grants the license to practice social work. The license is granted only to those who graduated from schools of social work. Only licensed social workers are allowed to practice social work. Over 60% of the licensed social workers also graduated from MSW programs. Almost all social workers take courses in continuing education programs in the country's School of Social Work. They also take psychotherapy programs, or they study at the Central School for Social Workers operated by the Ministry of Social Welfare. Within some minor variation, the curriculum, its structure, and the socialization of students to the profession are similar among the schools. Several forums meet regularly, serving as platforms for discussions on challenges, issues, policies, and shared decision-making processes. These are the heads of the schools of social work, coordinators of field placement units. There is also an advisory committee to the Minister of the Ministry of Welfare and the Students' Organization for Promoting Social Change. The overall goal of the BSW programs in Israel, as of other schools across the world, is to train social workers in the values, knowledge, and skills that enable them to operate at various levels of intervention, so as to improve the quality of life of their service users, prevent problems and distressful situations, and help achieve social justice. We expect the graduates to identify with the profession and to be proud to belong to the professional milieu. We expect them to be able to determine whether their personal values are consistent with or conflict with the profession's values, to base their interventions on cutting-edge knowledge, and to be able to explain and evaluate their practice decisions and interventions. Before going into how the social work schools in Israel achieve these aims, I would like to present the definition of the profession that was approved by the International Federation of Social Workers General Meeting and by the General Assembly of the International Associations of Schools of Social Work that was held in Melbourne in July 2014. This definition directs us to the knowledge basis we should teach. Social work is a practice-based profession and an academic discipline that promotes social change and development, social cohesion, and the empowerment and liberation of people. Principles of social justice, human rights, collective responsibility, and respect for diversities are central to social work. Underpinned by theories of social work, social sciences, humanities, and indigenous knowledges, social work engages people and structures to address their life challenges and enhance well-being. This general definition is followed by more operative commentary notes. You can see them on the organization's website. I will present several of them as examples. As I said, this definition and the operative notes following this definition can direct us to the content that we should teach in schools of social works. The professions strive to alleviate poverty, liberate the vulnerable and oppressed, and promote social inclusion and social cohesion. Social work draws on its own constantly developing theoretical foundation and research, as well as theories from other human sciences. Social work legitimacy and mandate lie in its intervention at the points where people interact with their environment. Social workers utilize a range of skills, techniques, strategies, principles, and activities at various system levels. A social work definition can only be meaningful when social workers actively commit to its values and visions. After this long introduction, I will present the goals and objectives of the BSW program at my university and the strategies for achieving them. I already mentioned that with some slight variation, the other programs in Israel are similar. So what are the goals of our BSW programs in Israel? As I said, I will present the goals relevant to Tel Aviv University. We seek to educate students to be knowledgeable about social, economic, political, and legal systems that exist in Israel and in the main social problems that characterize Israeli society. We seek to educate students to be knowledgeable about the theoretical basis underlying social work interventions at various levels and about application of these interventions to practice. Among other things, we would like them to be capable of applying methods and skills that are appropriate to different cultures and to situations of stress, uncertainty, ambiguity, and conflict, and capable of understanding and planning process for systematic intervention and its evaluation. We want them to be committed to the process and capable of implementing it as part of their work. We want the students to possess fundamental skills for academic learning and for research. We want them to be capable of identification, analysis, integration, and critique of academic and professional knowledge that is relevant to their practice. We want them to be capable of academic and professional self-expression, orally and in writing. We want them to be capable of understanding the paradigmatic basis of research, its effects on the generation of knowledge and its uses. And we want them to be familiar with qualitative and quantitative research methods in the social sciences. We want them to be capable of critically reading research reports, interested in research, and capable of implementing basic quantitative and qualitative research. To recognize the importance of the values on which the profession of social work is based, we want them to have knowledge of how those values can be implemented to practice and to be familiar with the rules of ethics in the social work profession. To be committed to the social work profession and identify with its principles, its values, and its uniqueness in relation to other professions. We want the students to be aware and involved in social problems and in cases of injustice, and willing to work towards putting these issues on the public agenda and demanding their resolution. The teaching methods to achieve these objectives include frontal teaching, moderated, small groups, supervised, field instruction, reflective and learning through moderated discussions in small groups and in the field supervision. We use experiential learning through direct encounters with issues and communities by means of tours, observation, and discussion of presentations and fields. We also create opportunities for the students for personal, voluntary involvement, social initiatives, and political social activity on issues that are of concern to social workers in Israel. The goals and objectives of the programs are reflected in both the explicit and implicit curricula, both of which are consistent with the definition of the profession. The explicit program has 4 teaching axes over all 3 years of the degree courses. Practice theories is the first axis. It's a series of 3 courses taught in each of the 3 years of the program. The focus in the first year is on the nature and characteristics of theoretical conceptualization and their effects on the development of models for social work interventions. In the second year, the focus shifts to theories, approaches, and models that constitute the basis for casework in social work. In the third year, the focus is on critical theories from a critical viewpoint, such as radical social work. The emphasis in the second axis is on the acquisition of skills, intervention skills. In the first year, the course focuses on interview skills, in the second year on diagnostic skills, and in the third years on planning and evaluating interventions. The third axis is social work methods. The courses along this axis constitute the laboratory in which integration occurs between the theory courses, the skill courses, and the field training. Materials brought from the field is connected to theoretical and practical knowledge taught in the classrooms. Emphasis is also placed on the development of a professional identity, commitment to the profession, and the promotion of ability in critical and reflective observation. As part of the method courses, the instructors are responsible for connecting and integrating academia and the field while maintaining continuous contact with the social services that supervise the students in their field instruction. The fourth teaching axis is the supervised field instruction. The practical training starts with 1 day a week in the first year and increases to 2 days a week in the second and third years, with the goals of exposing students to a maximum number of learning experiences, problem areas, populations, and welfare services. In addition to the 4 horizontal axes, each student learn the following courses clusters. Courses that provide knowledge of the social, economic, political, legal systems that are relevant to the work of social workers. Courses that deal with the various levels of intervention, family intervention, group intervention, community intervention, and policy practice. There are also courses that deal with the ethical basis of social work, and these courses are mandatory. Courses on research and academic skills are also mandatory, and I'll give you some examples to these courses: scientific writing and use of databases, introduction to the philosophy of science, research methods in the social sciences, introduction to statistics, and empirical seminars where students are actively involved in doing research. Now to the implicit curriculum. A continuing and consistent effort is made to provide students with opportunities to experience and express their core values and principles of social work, such as partnership, social involvement, and commitment to social justice. For example, to promote partnership, the students are given the power to influence the content and methods of teaching. Students' representatives regularly participate in the meetings of the teaching committee and the field instruction committee, and in the steering committee that plans and organizes the regular end of year one-day seminar. The students, with support of the staff, initiate events on issues that are important to them and participate in the advisory committee that provides feedback on the curriculum and a platform for them to express their opinions on issues on the school's agenda. In addition, the school promotes meetings between students and field experts through lectures in their various courses, discussions in conferences, workshops, and symposia. The experts are drawn from different organizations in Israel. The program is constantly examined and modified to meet new populations and changing social needs. For example, there were some modifications in the program to meet challenges raised by the pandemic. With respect to the subject of this evening, the development of social workers' professional identity, it can be said that the knowledge, skills, and values the students acquire in the 3 years of the program, their experiences in the field, and the various activities in the implicit curriculum advance their sense of belonging to the profession and their pride in being part of it. I will stop here. I want to wish you a fruitful and enjoyable discussion. And if you have any question, I'll be happy to answer or to share some of our knowledge and the way we work and develop professional identity among our students. Thank you.